thought I'd get laid off. I had a really good job. I had a steady paycheck. I was in my soft girl era essentially. And then all of a sudden the layoff happened. And then what happened was one of the most challenging moments of my life. I was putting in hundreds of applications. I was getting ghosted, getting rejected left and right. And on top of being ghosted and rejected, like I was getting no interviews pretty much. And then I made one major shift, and that was using AI to completely change my approach. And that's when I flipped the table on this job search, being unemployed thing. So a little bit about my layoff story. I was working as a marketing manager for an ed tech company. I was, using my skill to help our partners understand our product, to drive engagement, typical marketing manager types of things. Not only was I working with an external partner, I was also working with internal teams, making sure that cross collaboration was there, and then also ensuring that, folks were enabled the way that they needed to be in order for there to be like a seamless launch of that product for whoever that particular partner was. And in that job, I felt pretty secure. Like I had this false sense of security while working there. And I guess my job wasn't as secure as I thought it was, because then I got laid off without any preamble, no warning. Access was cut off to all the Google Docs. And then once the access was cut off, I ended up receiving an email in my inbox, and I was like, what is this? After I got that email, I reached out to a couple of my colleagues like, hey, did you get that email too? And a lot of them were like, yeah, I got the email as well. And it was just really shocking because I've never been laid off before and I just didn't understand what was going on. So once reality kind of set in, like I cried. I was pissed off. Like I got very upset and I confided in my husband about it, called him upstairs, said, hey, like this just happened to me. I just got laid off. And of course, like the initial reaction to that is you're terrified because you have no idea like what you're going to do next. You probably had some financial plans set in place that you're no longer going to be able to see through. And we were like scared. It's like, how are we going to pay for our house? How are we going to pay for our child to go to daycare? How are we going to pay to put food on the table, clothes on our back, pay our electric bills, whatever? There was a sense of fear and dread, honestly, about the outcome of this layoff. And given my lack of knowledge at the time about the job market, I had no idea what I was being launched into post layoff. So I took a couple of days, was around Labor Day weekend, and I took a couple of days to just decompress and really take in what was happening and what happened with all of us that were laid off. And I knew that like I couldn't take a long period of time because I still needed to pay bills and pay a mortgage. I was like in a rush to get back on my feet, land my next gig, and I was hoping at the time that it would only take me about a month to find something new. So of course, after my short break, I jumped right back into job searching and started doing the things I had always done before, right? Like you just take your resume and you start applying to jobs and you just hope for the best. Because back in the day, the way that it worked was like you had your resume, you kind of beefed it up a little bit with your recent experience, and then you just shopped it out to wherever you saw a role that you knew that you had like skill set in that you could do. So with all of that said, I jumped back into the job search pool and pretty much did what I was doing in the past. I put my most recent experience in my resume and I just started applying to whatever I saw that I was like, oh yeah, I can do that, right? Like it's not that hard. This might be similar to what I was just doing. This might be similar to what I've done in the past. And I just started applying to everything. And I think it took me a while. It actually took me a couple of months to realize that that was the wrong way to go about my job search, because out of that entire time, after I've applied to like over 100 jobs at that point, I only landed 2 interviews, and that was interviews because of people that I knew that worked at those places, and those interviews didn't even make it past the first round. So of course I started to doubt myself. I'm like, dang, I have all of this professional experience, like I feel like I'm a really, really dope marketer. Like, what is the problem? Like, why can't I land interviews? Why can't I land a job very quickly? Like, what is the problem? And once that self-doubt starts setting in, like, you're not bringing your whole self to your interviews, and that starts to show. You can't really be yourself on like your resume. You start doubting your resume. You start scrapping it, redoing it, scrapping it, redoing it, and it just becomes this never-ending cycle of self-doubt, worrying, being mad, being angry at the job market, being angry at yourself for not moving the needle, and it's just not a good place to be in. And it was at that moment that I knew something had to change, right? Like, something had to give in order for me to move the needle forward in my job search. And so I decided to take a break. Like, I stopped applying to jobs and I stopped looking and stopped networking, and I just completely took a step back and really had to think about what was wrong with my approach and what I needed to do differently. So what I did was I copied and pasted my resume into ChatGPT and I said, hey friend, I need help. Based on my skill set, what should I really be focusing on from a career standpoint? Because I'm at a loss. I'm bruising my shins right now and I'm not making any headway on moving the needle for myself or getting any interviews or any of that. And based on the skills that I've annotated in my resume, like ChatGPT was like, girl, you should pursue, I think it was a couple of things. It was like content marketing, consumer marketing, and then product marketing. And then product marketing was the one that I kind of like zoned in on because most of my skill set throughout my career predominantly aligned with product marketing. So then I got the ball rolling with using ChatGPT, Claude. I think there was one other AI tool that I used to help me rewrite my resume, really showcase my impact in my resume, and also tailor my resume specifically to like the job that I wanted versus like me trying to make a square peg fit into a round hole. I also use those tools to help me pinpoint like keywords in a bunch of different job descriptions for product marketing so I can pull those into my resume to further tailor it to like the job that I want. I also used AI to help me interview prep and ask me questions I should anticipate for that particular role and how to better answer those questions so I don't like trip up on myself and not really showcase the skill set that I had developed over the years in my career. So once I decided to specialize instead of being a marketing generalist and then optimize my resume for my applications, like my interview rate took off. It got real crazy for me for a little while. And when I say it got crazy for me for a little while, the last 2 months of my job search, so it took me 4 months total to find a job from layoff to being hired. But the last 2 months of my job search specifically, I had like 38 first round interviews based off of me taking that break and picking a specialization and optimizing my resume. And so I was pretty much interviewing every single day because I had 38 first round interviews that then trickled into more interviews, second rounds, third rounds, fourth rounds, and even fifth round interviews for jobs that I was interested in and that were interested in me. So the reason why I created this channel is because I know for a fact that job searching is not like it was back in the day. Like you just can't send your resume out without it being optimized and expect somebody to call you back. That's just not how it works. And I also know firsthand how brutal this job market is. I have encountered people who have been laid off and have been unemployed for 4 months, 6 months, 18 months even before they landed something else. So what I want to share with you here is how to use AI to optimize your resume, right? Like if you're a marketer, a generalist marketer specifically, how to specialize using AI based on your job experience. Also, how to pivot in this job market and really stand out as a competitor amongst competitors, because you have to dare to be different to get get out of the job search pool, for real. I'll be sharing some of my favorite AI tips, job search tips, things that worked for me navigating this job market. Also sharing a bit of my story of like the difficulty of layoff, how it impacted myself and my husband financially, and how we're on the other side of it just a few months after getting a new job. So since I'm new here, I definitely want to hear from you. Like, what's been the hardest part about your job search, and what advice you might have to share for someone like me who was hired 6 months ago after a layoff, others who might be going through the same situation. Would love to connect and interact with you all in the comments below. So yeah, share your thoughts and share what you have to say.